The Tampa Bay Rays stadium situation has become an absolute fascination of mine. I've gone deep down the rabbit hole, and I'm really just I'm embarrassed at how much I got interested in this. What first grabbed my attention was I read a headline that the Rays were proposing splitting their season between two different cities, having a home city for the beginning of their season and a home city for the end of their season. So they'd play the first half of their year, spring and early summer in Florida, in the Tampa area. And then they'd spend the later summer months, early fall months, early fall time, half of the season, up in Montreal, Canada. And my immediate reaction when I heard this was, what in the world is going on? What idea is that? That's ridiculous. That's stupid. That's a terrible idea. I mean, the fans get hammered. The players get hammered. The players would have to pay taxes in Canada and in America, in the U.S. And the reasoning for this idea was because the Rays wanted to build a new stadium, but the stadium idea was too expensive because of the roof. And so the answer was build a stadium without a roof. However, because of Florida weather, I guess they have to play the second half of the season in Canada because, again, I guess of weather. Is weather bad? And I don't know enough about Florida. I guess early fall, late summer, it must be terrible Florida weather, lots of rain or something. I don't know. It's very weird. But what I quickly found out was I was taken for a fool. All of this stuff, this idea of splitting their season between two cities, all just complete nonsense. When I listened to the St. Petersburg, Florida mayor, Rick Kreisman, talk about this issue, here's what he said. Take a listen.
I want to be crystal clear. The Rays cannot explore playing any Major League Baseball games in Montreal, or anywhere else for that matter, prior to 2028 without reaching a formal memorandum of understanding with the city of St. Petersburg. And ultimately, such a decision is up to me. And I have no intention of bringing this idea to our city council to consider. In fact, I believe this is getting a bit silly. Now, I have great respect for Stu Sternberg and for his leadership team. I love the product that they put on the field. I love how they play the game. But after 12 years of indecision, including 3 years of exploring its options throughout the Tampa Bay region, like many in Tampa Bay, I am tired of the games that are being played related to getting a new stadium built. The residents of St. Pete, the Tampa Bay area, the fans of the team, each of you in the media, we all deserve better and should not take this too seriously. This is just the latest chapter in the book of negotiations. And speaking of negotiations, let me again be crystal clear about this. I am ready to sit down with the team to have serious discussions about the financing of a stadium with a full-time team here in St. Petersburg. I'm also ready to begin the process of redeveloping the Tropicana Field site, with or without plans for a new stadium at the end of this summer. And I have asked the Rays to let me know, one way or another, what their future and final plans are. Now, Major League Baseball may have given the approval for exploration of this concept, but for us in St. Pete, sharing this team with Montreal is not an option on the table.
So, basically, this guy says, no, you cannot go unless we sign off on it. He also called out the Rays for making, weird political moves and using negotiating tactics. And then he said, you're wasting everybody's time. This is stupid. This is annoying. It's a waste. And, I want to explain, if you don't understand, I want to spell out for you the Tampa Bay Rays stadium situation. The Rays play in Tropicana Field, which is at the end of, Florida people might get mad at me. I'm sorry. It's basically at the end of a peninsula. If you look at a map, Tropicana Field's at the bottom of a peninsula. It's sort of isolated. There's, in the middle of the day when there's no traffic around noon, it's about a 25-minute drive from downtown Tampa to St. Petersburg, Florida, where Tropicana Field is. That's without traffic, and that's just from downtown. Now, the population center of Tampa, Florida, is not necessarily downtown. People live in the outskirts and want to drive it's like an hour for people with traffic and stuff to get to the baseball stadium. And I think it's actually longer. It's a horrible area for there to be a stadium, according to people of Florida. You either have to cross bridges, across water, or have to drive down south, down the peninsula to the bottom of the peninsula where the stadium is. Maybe people, again, hate the word peninsula. I'm sorry if you do. But it's across Tampa Bay from Tampa, Florida is where the stadium is. The point is this. Because the traffic's a pain to get to. It's really isolated. And it's sort of an old, crappy stadium. People say that Tropicana Field stinks. They don't like it. Nobody really goes to games. They regularly drop under 10,000 people in attendance. And it's just a mess. It's a really bad situation. And so the Rays proposed to build a new stadium across the bay in Tampa. There's a beautiful design. It's really pretty. It's in the Ybor area. Ybor is an area in Tampa, and they would have called it the Ybor City Ballpark. And this was estimated to cost $900 million. Now, Tampa, or the Hillsborough County area, was only going to pay for half of the stadium. They said, we'll pay $450 million. You got to find out a way to come up with the rest of the money. And the Rays said, no way, we are not doing that. You have to bring up more money. If you want us to have a stadium in your area, you better put up more money for that. Because, many other cities are desperate for a team like the Rays to come to their city and would put up a lot more money to have a baseball team than Tampa was apparently willing to put up. So if the Rays accepted that $900 million stadium, only getting $450 million from the city of Tampa, the Hillsborough County, it would have been a bad business deal for the Rays. Because again, a city like Montreal or Portland or Nashville is saying, we'll basically build you a stadium. You come to us. We want you that badly. Other cities are going to put up way more money because they want the Tampa Bay Rays in their city. They want the Rays to land there in relocation. Now, the problem with the Rays leaving Tampa Bay, and really the advantages, if you're a Tampa Bay fan, if you want to keep the Rays in Tampa, Florida, here are the advantages for maybe keeping your team in that area. One is the Rays' lease on their stadium at Tropicana Field doesn't end until 2027. That's 8 years from now. I guess, in terms of business, that's not that long, but that's also not that soon. There's a while until this problem is going to get solved in Tampa, Florida. And it's also noted that Major League Baseball, the owners of baseball teams, would much prefer to have two expansion teams join the league. If you're going to put a team in a city like Portland or Montreal, you want it to be an expansion team because expansion teams require a $1.5 billion with a B, $1.5 billion buy-in to join the league. And what that means is that $1.5 billion would get distributed between all 30 MLB teams. All 30 MLB owners would divide up that $1.5 billion. So basically, when the league expands, MLB owners get richer. MLB owners would much prefer the league to expand so they can get more money in their pockets than have the Rays relocate. Because if teams move and don't add new teams to the league, the owners don't get that money added to their pocketbook. Makes sense to me. Now, another complication is if you put a team in Portland, for example, there's a territorial dispute that will happen. Teams like the Seattle Mariners, who are relatively close to Portland, would complain that their geographic area is being cut into and hurting their fan base. The Mariners would want to be paid compensation for the damage that's being hit to their fan base. I guess Portlanders, I'm a Portland guy. I grew up in Portland my whole life. I guess they're saying Portlanders are Mariners fans. Not me, never been one. But that's not true. I guess I was, but actually, I take that back. When I was a kid, I loved the Mariners. So I guess it makes sense for the Mariners to say. But the point is it adds a complicated wrinkle where the Mariners want to get paid compensation for adding a team to Portland because it hurts their geographic fan base. Now, if you look at me and ask me, the Tampa Bay Rays stadium situation is a gigantic mess. They can't get a stadium paid for by the city. Their lease doesn't expire for 8 more years. Really, they're not favored to relocate because owners would rather expand the league so they can get a buy-in fee from the new ownership groups And, there's more complications with stealing territories and fan bases and compensation for damages and all that. So unless Tampa Bay, that area, the Tampa region, whether it's St. Petersburg or Tampa, Florida, or Hillsborough County, puts up more money by 2027, I do believe that at some point, unless more money is proposed to the Rays, I think the Rays are going to leave the city they're in, because another city is simply going to put up more money and say, we will give you a stadium if you come to our city, whether it's Nashville, Montreal, or Portland. But also, multiple cities want teams. It's not just Portland. It's not just Montreal. It's not just Nashville. A lot of cities would like to have baseball teams in their city that are affiliated with Major League Baseball. And so my belief is that not only will the Rays leave by 2027, here's my prediction. The Rays are going to leave after 2027. That's what I believe. I believe also we're going to get 2 more Major League Baseball expansion teams because owners are hungry for those expansion fees. $3 billion dispersed between 30 MLB franchises. That's $100 million for each franchise. So I think that all 3 of those things are going to happen. I think, first of all, 2 teams are going to be added to Major League Baseball, and that's 2. That's only 2, not 3. And I do believe the Rays, in fact, are going to leave Tampa Bay, Florida, that whole area, and go to another city because I don't think the Tampa region is willing to pay for their stadium. And because of that, another city is going to come in, give the Rays a better offer, and swoop the Rays out of Tampa, Florida, and the Rays will eventually relocate, even if 2 new teams are added to Major League Baseball. That's my opinion. That is what I predict will happen. Both the Rays are going to move, and baseball is going to expand to 32 teams in Major League Baseball.